Hi guys, so for today we're just going to continue to practice graphing sine functions and looking at amplitude, frequency, and period. So you do not have these questions. These are just a few extra practice questions of some things that I've noticed that I just want to point out. So you're going to do 4 of them that look like this for your assignment today. I'm just going to go over these 2 quickly in case you want to refresh what we are doing with these. So the first thing that we need to identify is our amplitude, and our amplitude is what is written in front of the sine, and we call this our a value. If I have my function y equals a sine of bx, so this number in front is our amplitude, so this is our a value. When you do the a value, your amplitude is really the absolute value of that, which means it's never going to be negative. So ignore the negative sign. This is just a 3. The negative sign will come into play when we're going to sketch it though. Our frequency is the number that is with the x. So on a few of your assignments, I've noticed that when you see nothing here, you guys have been putting a 0. If I just wrote like x plus 3x, completely nothing to do with sine and cosine functions, when you add this, you would tell me this is 4x, because really there's an imaginary 1 here. So that applies in this situation also, even though there is no number in front of the x here. Do it in another color. Even though there's no number in front of the x here, there really is an imaginary 1 there. So my frequency is 1. Again, my frequency tells me how many cycles in 2 pi. But when I'm going to sketch it, I'm really going to use my period, which is the length of 1 cycle. To calculate our period, I do 2 pi and I divide it by my b value. And my b value is this frequency. So my period in this case is 2 pi divided by 1, which simplifies just to 2 pi. Now, I'm going to use those 2 values to help me graph it. We saw that a sine function typically looks like this, but this is a negative sine function. So a negative sine function is going to go in the downward direction first, or it's going to flip over the x-axis. So our sine function is going to look like this, since it has that negative out in front. Now, there's 2 things that I want you to label. I want you to label the x-axis, and I also want you to label the y-axis. And using your amplitude and frequency is going to help you do that. So to label your x-axis has to do with your frequency. So this information is going to help you label the x-axis. This period is your length of 1 cycle. We've sketched 1 cycle here, so at the end of that cycle on your x-axis, you're going to label it with whatever your period is, so 2 pi. Your amplitude is going to help you with your y-axis. So if I'm going to label my y-axis, this tells you how far up and how far down from the middle of your graph you're going to go. So for now, the middle of my graph is here on my axis, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3 to get my max and my minimum values of this graph. And that is what I am asking you guys to do for these practice questions. So I'm going to do one more without so much work on it, so then you could see what I am expecting of you. So first, our amplitude is the number that's written in front. If you do not see anything, it is automatically a 1. Your frequency is the number that is with the x. So in this case, it is 5. And to get your period, you do 2 pi over that b value, which in this case is 2 pi over 5. Now, if this is something that can be simplified, then simplify it, but 2/5 cannot be simplified, so I'm going to leave it like that. This is a positive sine function, so it's going to go up first and then down. And again, it has these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points if you're still unsure of how you are graphing that. We must sketch and label the x and y axes. So let's use the information that we did. My amplitude, again, helps me label my y axis. So it goes up 1 unit. and it goes down 1 unit from my midline. And your period is your length of one cycle. So here is my one cycle, and it's going to end at 2 pi over 5. All right, so what your job is today, my friends, is you have these 4 questions that I just want you guys to identify the important information, and then I would like you to draw a sketch of each of them. Have a great one. Bye.